Over the course of this episode, we're going to dismantle the curated lie that Jennifer and Sarah Hart built to hide a house of horrors. We're investigating how a system designed to protect children failed 6 times over, across 3 different states, allowing abuse to masquerade as parenting. We're not just looking at how they died on that cliff in California. We're looking at the motive behind the annihilation. We're peeling back the facade to understand how 2 mothers could decide that if they couldn't control their children's lives, they would control their deaths. To understand the magnitude of this loss, we have to look past the viral photos and see the children as they truly were. Individuals with distinct personalities, dreams, and resilience. Marcus, the eldest at 19, was often described as the gentle protector, a young man with a bright spirit who tried to shield his younger siblings from the volatility of their home life. He was known to be incredibly polite and eager to please, carrying a weight of responsibility far beyond his years. Hannah, 16, and Devontae, 15, were the middle children who often bore the brunt of the public performance. Devontae famously became the face of the family after a photo of him hugging a police officer during a protest in Portland went viral. He was charismatic and emotional, a boy who wore his heart on his sleeve, and a smile that could light up a room, even when things at home were dark. Hannah was quieter, often described to those who briefly met her as having a watchful intensity, a girl who had learned that silence was often the safest option. Then there were the younger 3, Jeremiah, 14, Abigail, 14, and Sierra, 12. They were the little ones, often dressed in matching colorful outfits that served as the family's visual brand. Jeremiah was brave. He was the one who would eventually try to break the code of silence. Abigail and Sierra were spirited and full of potential. Children who should have been worrying about middle school crushes and homework, not survival. They had formed a bond forged in shared trauma that was tighter than blood. The family lived in Woodland, Washington, a small, quiet community where they mostly kept to themselves. To the outside world, specifically the online world, they were a bohemian dream. Jennifer Hart posted constantly, writing long, flowery captions about the beauty of their tribe, their vegetarian diet, and their adventures in nature. They were regulars at music festivals where the children were often seen dancing in unison, a spectacle of joy that charmed strangers and validated the mother's image as saints who had saved these troubled children from the foster system. But this image was a cage. The children were isolated from the community, homeschooled, and rarely allowed out of their mother's sight. The love that Jennifer broadcasted to her Facebook followers was not the reality. The closed doors of their rural home, the children were erased. Their identities flattened into props for their mother's narcissism. They were loved for what they could project to the world, not for who they were. The tragedy is not that they died, but that they never truly were allowed to live. They were 6 bright lights kept under a bushel of control and manipulation. And while the neighbors saw a quirky private family, and the internet saw a perfect multicultural unit, the cracks were already forming. The children were hungry, they were scared, and they were running out of time. The dynamic between Jennifer and Sarah Hart was complex and ultimately lethal. Jennifer was the dominant personality, the face of the family, who craved the validation of social media likes and public adoration. She painted herself as the weary but saintly mother. Sarah, on the other hand, was the enforcer and the primary breadwinner, working outside the home while Jennifer managed the household.